What's up, guys? Straight from the Chess Sunday. I am your host, Justin Groth. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for viewing everything. You want to know something about me? I hate keto. That's a fun fact about me. I hate keto. In fact, I hate it so much that I got a shirt specifically made for me on my pretense about the notion, which says F keto. Carb themed in the back. Now, obviously, it's not going to say F keto. It's going to say F percentage sign, hashtag, asterisk, keto underneath it. Because I hate keto. Why do I hate keto so much? Because I have never experienced anything great on keto. If anything, it plummets me, my energy, my focus, everything. I do better. I know this is crazy to say this, but I do better on glucose. I do better on the fuel that my body loves the most. And I think you do too. But you want to know something about you that I know? I know you love complexity. And I know you love making things more complex than they really are. When really things are meant to be so simple. In fact, there's a phrase that states keeping it simple, right? Keeping it simple, stupid. K.I.S.S method. Why do you think that was coined so long ago? Because it applies in everything. It really does. It applies in my life. It applies in your life. But because our brains gravitate so much, and this is not your fault. It's not my fault either, because I do the same thing. Because our brains gravitate so profusely to complexity in the regards of us thinking that that is a superior process, we naturally want to adopt that process. Does that make sense? So if somebody is telling you that this new thing, keto, or you're changing your body's primary fuel source from carbohydrates to fats is the way to go, because it's nuance, because it's different, and it's really not different. There's cultures and lineages of sorts that have done this for centuries and centuries. It's just the way that they are, it's what habitates their land, etc., and what they have at their disposal to eat. But us Americans, westernized diets, we adopt this principle because it is something that is we see a quick fix in the regards of weight loss. And most of us are after weight loss, right? Not me. I'm after weight gain, respectively, right? In terms of muscle gain. But I don't obviously want to be a whale in the process. So, so I restrict what I'm eating. In other words, I'm not going to go out and eat a bunch of donuts and ice cream and then lift weights and do squats, and because I think that's going to get me more muscle, because it's going to put a lot of fat on the process, right? We all know that. We understand that. But when this new principle came about, well, not new, years ago, keto took this wave of sorts. We adopt it because it's nuance. We think that it's superior because there's more complexity to it rather than just eating balanced, right? Who would have thought eating balanced would be so rudimentary to the point where it doesn't even work anymore? But we're gravitating towards this significant, what we think is superior, because of its rapid, quick effects on the body, which predominantly is going to be more water derived than anything, than actually fat loss. But that's what we adopt because we just love the instant gratification we see from it and we feel from it. True, it can definitely be beneficial short term, but definitely not long term. And I'm all about long term. If you know me, you know that I'm about long term consistency, and that is it. And that's why I hate keto so much. I'm not saying that other people don't do well off of it, or they have done something extravagantly disproportionate with it that I'm just not aware of. And I'm sure it's worked for many people, just like being a vegan works for a lot of people, being paleo works for a lot of people. To each your own. I'm not crucifying you for that. I'm just saying F keto. For me, that's it. But most of you already know I feel that way. That has nothing to do with the podcast, but actually it kind of does, because what I want to talk about this podcast is the fact that we don't oftentimes just keep things simple. We gravitate towards the complexity, and myself included, the complexity of multiple variances or multiple elements in our life. And there's something in my life that I've always referenced back to whenever something is becoming so, for lack of a better word, complex or confusing, or just extended branches here and there and everywhere, and I can't keep a hold on it. I always go back to what would the simple structure of this look like. And anytime, and that this is in my life, in my training, that's pretty much it, because that's really my life, is my business and where I'm going in terms of my purpose, and then my working out, my training. I mean, that's really all I got. Most people don't even have the latter. They just have the first. They just have their purpose, their career, etc. So, and the training, it ties into what I'm eating. That goes hand in hand, right? If you're working out, you're exercising, you're probably more conscious of what you're eating. And if you're like me, you've tried a bunch of approaches, and you have to. I mean, that's how you were able to speak on the notion. See, I wouldn't speak on the notion if I didn't have some authority in the space. And I'm not just saying I tried it for a week, I tried it for months, and I still didn't feel that it was beneficial to me and my physiology and my anthropometrical archaeology. It didn't match well. So that's why I adopted a different principle. But the principle that I adopted isn't really different. It's just basics. It's just simplicity. And we can take this to the ground floor with training. Everybody wants this complex training system, protocol, program, blah, 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 when really they just need to go back to basics and simplicity to make progressive results. And that can be applied to your life, in your job. Instead of trying to gravitate towards this complex notion that you have to do things this way and subtract and add and divide and multiply and blah, 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 blah. Why don't you just go back to keep it simple, stupid? That works. It's not your job to worry. It's not your job. And when you think about complexity, if you're a human like me with a simpleton mind like me, you understand that when things become more complex, it also engulfs the cousin of worry in the process. You're worrying if this is right, if I take on this particular thing, this particular notion that seems really good, seems like it's illustrated well by the person who illustrated it, and I think that it's going to help me in my life because it seems very scientific and it seems very extravagant, and it's really the way they doctor it and dress it up, the presenter. But I think obviously if there's got all these Z words accompanied with it, and it's got this program basis and structure so complex, it must work, right? And most of the time, no, it's not right. It doesn't work any better than the simple-minded structure of that same element. You get my drift? We don't need to gravitate towards the complex nature of anything. It's not about how complex you can be with certain things in your life. That doesn't necessarily equate to more progression. That doesn't equate to more progression in the gym. That doesn't equate to more progression in your diet, in your nutrition. It doesn't equate to more progression in real life. And oftentimes, it can sidetrack you. And if that is you, I don't condemn you, because that's a lot of what I've done in the past too. But until you realize that where you should be is authentic, and I talk about it all the time, is becoming authentic with who you are and being aware of your biological nature and the way you're wired. If you adopt that first and make that your crux and who you are at the core, then you'll understand that you trying to navigate yourself in these complex areas is just because you're trying to find a shortcut. You're trying to find a shortcut and a quicker way to do something because you dread the simple-minded, basic structure that has no glitz or glam or zeal to it, but really, that's the road to your success. But you're making it too confusing, and you're fortifying it with things that are futile. The progression, the true progression comes from basic, simple, hard effort, work, tenacity, perseverance. That is when you progress. If you would like to adopt the complex, what seems to be the better approach because there's so much more scientific nomenclature to it, then fine. But you're going to find yourself in an area where you just feel like, well, I can't figure this out because this is just too hard to keep in line with my day-to-day. This is too much. And then what happens is you drop it because really you want the simple structure. But you feel more comforted when you're in a complex state of design because that's what you feel breeds the success. Really, it's not that's what breeds success. It's the constant practice. It's the constant repetitive perpetual nature of the person and the simple job that they're doing day in, day out, week in, week out that produces the magnitude of their result. Let me give you an example, if you're still with me here. A basketball player that has dreams of being a professional basketball player. He continuously practices day in and day out. His three-pointers, his layups, his dribbling. He does that day in and day out, day in and day out. Do you think, I'm not a basketball coach, but I would venture to say that there's no magical route to take to becoming the next LeBron or MJ or Kobe. There's not a magical route. You have to have the genetics. That's A. That's A. But B, if you lay out the common denominator between all of those legends, you'll see that they don't sell you on any type of magical process that's coined them to the level that they were at. They'll tell you it's consistent practice, determination, perseverance. Even when you lose, you fail, it's consistency, it's practice, it's consistency, it's practice. That is the perpetuation, that's the perpetual nature that you need in order to climb the ladder. And if anybody can capitalize on a complex, scientific, non-rudimentary structure to get you to be the best that you can be in the NBA, don't you think MJ and LeBron and Kobe would have already fabricated that already? Because they won't lie to you. They'll tell you there's no magical method that you can apply. It's simple and it's consistent practice upon those simple variables. If you constantly apply the consistency to the simple concepts, you'll eventually make way. You'll eventually bust through. But it's going to take you consistently doing the same effing thing. And it's entirely up to you if you'd like to take a break, if you'd like to take a time out, if you'd like to take a season off. It's entirely up to you. But I also believe that another common denominator between all those three great players, legends, is I will say that because they believed in their visceral, in their gut, in their soul, in their heart, in their brain, every part of their being said, you're a champion. You're meant to be a champion. You can't take a break in a season when you're meant to be a champion. You can't. You won't. Your body, your brain, it won't let you. It won't let you. If you get caught up in the notion of, I got to take a break because, well, I don't know. I don't know that I should be doing this. Is this something that I really should be doing? And then on top of that, you're adopting this complex structure that somebody sold you on that you need to apply to in order to get to that level. Like it can become draining. It can become suppressive in nature because you're at this point where you're just bogged down by so many different things, elements that are protruding you, and you just feel like enough is enough. I gotta stop. This is it. And then you sit, recenter yourself, and realize it's not the complex nature of anything that makes anybody great. It's the consistent practice and at-bats. It's the consistency in delivering their intensity every single day in the avenue that they respect and love the most. It's doing all those things, keeping all those elements there and keeping them simple. That's what will bring somebody to the top. So that's why I hate any kind of nuance or different nutritional strategy, diet approach, all of these different ways that you can lose body fat and you can gain muscle, and that's not how it works. That's not how the body. Why don't you, instead of spending all this money on studies about how to implement this kind of nutritional style, how about you just go back to basics? And if you want to lose weight, be in a caloric deficit. If you don't know what your caloric deficit is, do the little online calculator. Even though they're not exact, it'll tell you kind of around about within a 5% margin what you need to be at. Eat in that caloric deficit, get enough protein, eat a consistent, balanced partitional approach between carbs, fats, and proteins, and you'll make your weight. You'll get to your goal. But it's also going to come at the result of you being consistent through the process. Being consistent through the simplicity is what is going to get you to your mark. The complex nature of everything is just there to sell you on something. Because our human brains love complexity, even though we hate it when we're doing it. But that's what entices us. Because it's nuance. It's something that we think, this is the next best thing. A lot of times there is no next best thing. The next best thing is the simple structure that you've foregone. That's the next best thing. Sometimes you just have to take it back to keeping it simple, stupid. And I do too.